Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on.
At this point, this is going to be Saudi talk uh, every every week. I got to continue to remind people this talk. First off, the talk of Warner Brothers reselling. We've been ahead of the curve with the late great Mikey Sutton 4 years ago. We was talking about this day, the times that we're in right now. And then earlier this year, I was hearing about the Saudis' potential involvement with purchasing Warner Brothers. So I put that out there. So we've been ahead of the curve. So I just try to remind people we have some interesting times, which is where we're in right now. The times where the Saudis are definitely angling their way to have some kind of stake in Warner Brothers. And when we talk about the Saudis, we're talking about the Public Investment Fund, Turki Al-Sheikh. He is a part of the PIF team. He is on the entertainment branch. He helped broker deals for WWE. Now they're going to have the WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. He partnered with Zack Snyder and Dana White to do the UFC film, which they may end up releasing it themselves. We're going to see how that goes. But so that's what we're talking about. When we talk about the Saudis, we're talking about this connection here that's been well seeded over time, and it's been well documented on this platform. So anyone else talking about Saudis now, they are after us. I'm just got to be direct when I say this, because we've been on top of this story for nearly a year now, and now it's starting to leak out with Paramount that they likely will tie in the Saudis along with other Arab groups to fund the purchase to Warner Brothers. But the very important thing in that story, probably the biggest part of that story, was the terms of this potential deal. Now, let me back up just for a moment, because we do got to also address that Paramount publicly denied that leak, but it is a leak. Now, first, we gotta touch on this post that Zack Snyder put out there on Instagram. This is going to be an interesting time just following Zack Snyder's activity on Instagram, man. He's giving us jewels nearly daily, behind the scenes shots, things we've never seen before, or other angles in BVS and things like that. And the last couple of days have been kind of wild, because everyone's talking about Warner Brothers being purchased. We know that, whoever buys Warner Brothers also will own the DC brand overall. And, obviously with Snyderverse, there's a lot of people's attention overall with that. But along with that, you had, some gossip sites out there. That's the only thing I can kind of call some of these websites at this point. They were speculating Christopher Nolan was going to bring back the Snyderverse, and then, with Comcast, and then 48 hours later, Paramount and the Saudis is going to bring back the Snyderverse, and the Snyderverse is already restored. Well, one thing I want to say, I don't expect anything to be decided with the Snyderverse until the actual purchase is made of Warner Brothers and the new owners of DC can properly wield it. So we're a couple years away from that, but we can we can discern whoever owns Warner Brothers in DC who would likely allow Zack to do DC again. And that's kind of how we're looking at that with this purchase of Warner Brothers in DC. So we're not into the fake news, the gossip, the grifters. They want an engagement farm and things like that. As I've been saying this for the past couple of months here on my main podcast channel, is that, and also on social media, that I don't like how people think they can easily grift the fandom. that it's too easy to grift the Snyder fandom. And certain sites have been trying, anonymous Twitter accounts and things like that. And so I will say, just looking at the feed, the timeline this evening, it was good to see a lot of pushback at people that's trying to grift the fandom. So I'm really happy to see that overall. But as far as with Zack, it's just interesting. In the midst of all that, Zack drops this post. At first, a Watchmen. I don't know anyone, even Zack Snyder haters, I don't know anyone that has anything bad to say about the Watchmen. Just like with the Snyder Cut, I don't see anyone that has really have a real problem with the Snyder Cut. Watchmen was pretty 300. There's a few projects that Zack had no criticism really at all, virtually none. It's just when certain chances were taken with Man of Steel, and that was Goyer. And then as far as the writer for that, and then BVS, definitely Terrio. I love the strokes they took, for BVS. Watchmen, I find it hard to find a criticism. It was strictly page to panel what Zack Snyder did with Watchmen. But Zack just decides to throw this out there in the midst of people saying, putting out fake Snyderverse stories, and the Saudis, won't they put in the bid with Paramount or whoever, or Warner Brothers. Zack just drops this casually. The end is nigh. A shot from the Watchmen. A very interesting choice. And then the comic, you had that very interesting panel. This is the full shot. As he said, Jackie Earl Haley pictured here, as he was pictured in the film. Rorschach, one of the most perfect castings ever, one of the best performances probably ever. The end is nigh. What does this mean, right? What is Zack trying to say? In the comics, you had that sign in Armageddon time, ready. That's what I take from it, that apocalyptic times is near. The world is going to be shaken. Heavens and earth will be rocked. Foreshadowing is what I take from this. In the story, it was foreshadowing, the themes in the story. And also it was the philosophy of Rorschach. He felt society was decaying, headed to disaster. But for us here, I'm taking it it's hey, dude, people that's been following Zack Snyder for at least 6 or more years, you know how Zack rolls, and it's very symbolic with what he posts. Recently, Zack Snyder said on Instagram, "Hey, there's more to come." Like, I'm just getting started, with these posts. So I think, us who's has a trained eye with Zack Snyder language, he's leading us somewhere. I will say that Zack is, and this is what I try to tell people, because I never want to manufacture any stories or anything like that. I'm here to react to what Zack Snyder does, and when Zack Snyder gets active, I've learned over the years that that's when we should be active. When Zack Snyder's very active, because when he's quiet for a reason, and he's probably plotting. But when Zack is active, pay attention. Like, you remember, we're approaching Thanksgiving time now, and Zack dropped that Crisis Turkey some years ago. That was around the time when Cavill was coming back, Ben was coming back. There was a chance for a last ride of the Snyderverse with DeLuca and Pam Abdi. That was a real thing happening. And then, of course, we understand what, for different reasons, Black Adam bombed, and Zaslav 180'd on the possibilities Cavill was in the Flash film, and they took him out of the film. So Zack teases stuff, I feel, for a reason, and we know this again as a fandom. And all I can take from this, like I said, all I can conclude is that things is about to get crazy. Like this, things is about to get wild. And when Warner Brothers is officially sold, we're gonna find this out in under a month. And it's likely the Saudis will have some kind of bid, some kind of minority share, but with a promise to do an IP. And we're going to transition to that because, like I said, but first, like I said, just with this here, we're at the edge of the end of times as we know it. Are we ready? So as I did that last video about, it's funny, the last video I did was, I was mostly talking about, I was preparing to talk about Comcast. Brian Roberts, the co-CEO of Comcast, went over to Saudi Arabia and hung with the PIF team. That's with Turki Al-Sheikh and everything, the Prince of Saudi Arabia and everyone over there, right? And it came out that he was talking about some theme parks and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people favor Comcast because of the potential that they could really diversify the DC brand. A lot of people like Universal Pictures, the theme parks. They feel they can add some DC to it. And then you got Christopher Nolan over there. You know, I don't know if he's exclusively with Universal, but he has a good relationship with Universal. And so just people feel better if DC is over there, you know, with Universal, right? Which is Comcast. And so I was prepared to do that video. I was in the middle of talking about Brian Roberts' trip to Saudi Arabia. And then the story dropped that David Ellison assembled an Avengers team to purchase Warner Brothers, including Turki Al-Sheikh's team, the PIF, the Saudis. That was a bombshell. David Ellison, Paramount, was giving these Arab nations a stake in Warner Brothers and a potential to do an IP, which I found very interesting with that. But before we get to that, let's first acknowledge, because that was a real leak. First, like I said, I heard about the Saudis earlier this year, that they wanted parts of the company. Someone came out with the story, producer Patrick on Instagram. He said the Saudis wanted to buy the entire Warner Brothers. That sounded great, but I didn't think that would get through the regulatory states and, you know, this government. They're not going to allow 100% ownership from a foreign entity, right, to own an American Warner Brothers. So I was like, that sounded great. I know they have the money for it, but I was told they would want parts of the company or a minority stake to get into Hollywood, right? And so that's what this leak of Paramount was saying. And since this is a true leak, Paramount had to deny that one. You can't let that one slide right there. As this report says, Paramount Skydance denies that its Warner Brothers Discovery bid involves Arab sovereign wealth funds. Paramount Skydance has denied a Variety report that the company was forming an investment consortium with the sovereign wealth funds of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to submit a bid to Warner Bros. Discovery. This is the quote. The information Variety published is categorically incorrect. A rep for Paramount Skydance said in the statement, this is a confidential process, which we respect, and as such, we would not be commenting until the process is over. You have people taking this like, oh, it's totally false. It's over. Oh my goodness. First off, if this was a true leak, right? This leaked out the same day that head of Paramount, David Ellison, was meeting with Donald Trump and the Prince of Saudi. So this leaked out for a reason, right? Now they can say, "Oh, we categorically inaccurate." What's inaccurate? And they say, "Well, it's confidential. We can't comment right now." So, is it 3 sovereign nations of Arab, or is it a different figure that was quoted? What's inaccurate, right? So obviously this is how you blanket statement and try to deny a true leak, because this was a true leak. And to be fair, official bids do not start until November 20th. So yes, they can say, "Oh, this is incorrect," because we haven't made a bid yet. So that's true. Okay, you got me on that one. But don't be fooled by this. And those who are fooled, this is going to be a great learning lesson. I'm going to see how people move with this. Those who are that gullible to take this and say, "Oh, just everything's wrong on that report," and those who realize, like, they really didn't deny it. And then also too, as I was saying previously, you're going to start hearing, if you haven't already, from independent sources, this real talks have happened, including the Saudis and these other Arab nations, in this bid. And like I said, that very night, you had all of them in the same room. You had the Saudis, you had the Saudi Prince, Trump, David Ellison. Trump wants Paramount to win this bid, and the Saudis want to be on the winning team. That's the latest report the other day that was talking about, is that I was all on board with them jumping in with Comcast. They don't think Comcast could win this bid. They don't think Comcast could get this through the regulatory process with this current administration, with the Trump administration. Trump will probably make it difficult for anyone else but Paramount. Then on top of that too, Paramount actually has the best offer for Warner Brothers for Zaza, because Paramount wants to buy everything, right? All of Warner, not just parts like Comcast wants. So that was very interesting. But like I said, I thought it was just fair to just cover that Paramount technically denied that report, but I'm just here to tell you that was a real report, okay? And you could take my word for it. The long-term viewers, I think y'all know how I roll with information. It's not about passing false information. I take that very seriously. But also too, you'll be hearing from other independent sources saying that was a real report. So we're going to presume, let's just presume, that deal would actually happen. The part that was very interesting in that report that we want to conclude with talking about right now is that, again, presuming that's the deal, that the PIF, that's the Turkey Al-Sheikh team, Saudis, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, all three of them will have their chance to wield one of Warner Brothers' major IPs. I mean, that was in the report. And so what IPs you think they will want to do? Now, I can't speak for Qatar or Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into what was popular with them. I do know with the PIF team, with Turkey Al-Sheikh and the crew, we know what's popular with them. It's the SNYDERVERSE. Now, let's just be really clear. According to, again, that report, is that each of those Arab nations, including the Saudis, they will be able to wield a major IP, intellectual property. They will be allowed to have a movie premiere in their nation. and also be able to have a film shot in their land as well too, that which will bring more business out there as well too. So very interesting. What IPs you think these nations will pick? Now, let's just be clear, with Warner Brothers, because this is the promise that Paramount said that they will be able to wield a major IP. Now, Warner Brothers, they have, not just DC, they have the Mad Max franchise. They have Looney Tunes. They have, I think, a piece of the MonsterVerse. I think you gotta have Legendary Entertainment with you with that. Mortal Kombat. The Harry Potter, The Hobbit, Tarzan, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix. The Matrix is another IP they have as well too, and Willy Wonka, and DC. What major IP you think they would pick? I'm just saying that is a very interesting caveat or an interesting incentive each of these nations have in this bid for Warner Brothers, and I can only imagine what the Saudis will pick with that. Now, to be clear, people, there may be some misconception though. Is Snyderverse its own IP? It's DC. I'm just going to kind of take it that they're going to ask. I'm just going to put it out there and take this as speculation. But if this deal is true, and that was a real leak, I'm pretty sure the Saudis will pick DC. And you couple that with the fact that let's say, okay, Gunn, he's doing the numbers that he's doing. He has found an audience. It's not breaking, records or anything like that. But his DC, if he wants to keep doing these B to C-list characters and doing the Superman saga, Justice Gang, Gunn is not doing Justice League. He's not doing Darkseid. So easily, the Saudis can come in here if this is their share in the Paramount deal and say we want to do Justice League. Why wouldn't they be able to? This is the terms of the contract, right? This is the terms of the deal. So this is very possible, and it's not stepping on anyone's toes, right? If Gunn just put it out there, he said, I'm not doing Darkseid, and I'm hearing he's not going to do Justice League. It's going to just expand the universe. He's putting up pictures of the Wonder Twins and stuff like that. Go ahead and do all those the niche stuff, Gunn. Hey, do more Superman. Like I said, Man of Tomorrow, it could be an interesting story. It's not BVS level. It's not even Man of Steel level, to be quite honest with you. But the terms of that deal with Paramount and the Saudis, if that is the official bid, they could literally ask for a major IP and not step on anyone's toes, to do an Elseworld Justice League film and film it in Saudi Arabia and have it premiere in Saudi Arabia, right? So I'm just saying, this is insane. This deal with Paramount is crazier than I thought, right? It's amazing. And who knows? Okay, and let me kind of talk about this too, as far as, okay, how this leak out? Who would want this leaked out there? Paramount definitely didn't want that out there, right? Like we could tell by the reactions of everything. I think Warner Brothers leaked that. I think Warner Brothers wants that. Zaza wants this bidding war. Zaza wants it out there that, hey, Paramount has the best offer right now, and they're including the Saudis and other Arab nations. Who's going to step up? That's what I feel this leak was about. Is that Warner Brothers wanted that out there. Let's encourage the bidding war a day or two before the official bids begin. Now, when the official, that's why Paramount was like, man, this ain't supposed to be out there. It's confidential, right? See, this story is going to separate a lot of people from who's in this lane and who's not. I'm seeing a lot of people talking on this that's not in this lane. I'm just going to call it. We've been talking about this for over 4 years. The business behind it, right? And everything we talked about stood. And now I'm literally in the time where we previously talked about these days that we're in right now. So yeah, we're going to kind of just make it very clear. Not everyone probably should be commenting on this. Do your due research before you step into this conversation, because it's all lining up to what we talked about before. That Zaz have definitely selling this company. Now he kind of wants to merge now instead of walking off into the sunset. And then earlier this year, I heard the Saudis wants to be involved for parts of the company, and that's literally what's been reported. And now they can pick an IP. What do you think they're going to pick? Let me know in the comments below. You think they're going to pick Looney Tunes? Mortal Kombat? You think the Saudi they want to do Harry Potter? I think they want to do DC. I think they want to do Snyderverse. We're going to see. Again, I'm speculating saying this, but this opportunity is kind of wild, right? Kind of wild times that we're in right now. Let me know in the comments below. They reinvigorated me right now. This may be my last dance. This ride to the sale of Warner Brothers, the Saudis bringing in the money. Will they restore the Snyderverse? We shall see.